So, how many of well, you all work for a company, right? Hopefully, your boss isn't here. But if you can't raise your hand, you can raise your big toe. How many persons are interested in probably starting their own company or becoming a startup in the future? All right, good, good. I see the big toes. Okay, great. So my talk is really about how do you get from idea to creating a full product. Um, my company, Khary Digital Labs, is a web application development company. What we have done is that, if you guys are familiar with QuickBooks, and we've created a QuickBooks for Jamaica. QuickBooks is an accounting software that allows you to create invoices, track your bills, do your financial reports, and in Jamaican context, our software allows you to do your GCT tax returns, your payrolls, and so on. And this kind of is a story that describes our journey to doing it. So we have we have we kind of learned some lessons over the years. And one of the lessons that something that stood out to me, there's a professor called Dr. Knife, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, and he said to me that not to me, but to the crowd, that there's a scientific way to build a company. And that was about 2008, 2009. And from then I've been searching for this scientific way. And I came across this process called customer development by Steve Blank. So let's get into it. All right, so what customer development is. I really don't want to be reading the slide, but it's a four-step framework developed to discover, validate, test your idea. It helps identify your customer needs and what they really want. And it helps you to allocate the resources as well. So in visually, this is how it looks. So you go customer discovery. I feel so far from the presentation. Customer discovery, customer validation, and kind of loop over that, and then customer creation, and you build a company. So a startup. And if you guys have questions, please free to ask. I like to be interactive. So if you want to stop me and ask anything, please go ahead. I have left more time for questions and answers than anything else. I think it's more important to share and have a conversation than for me to just come up here and just spew information at you. So a startup is not a company, but a search. And I think that's the key difference that we need to understand, because there are different things at work when you're a startup versus when you're a company. A company really is about the execution of you having discovered a viable idea. So when you're thinking about becoming a startup, don't think of yourself as a company, but as a search. And what you're going to be doing is trying to find this idea of how to search, of what the idea is. So the bright idea for us was we thought people wanted accounting software in Jamaica. 2009, we ran ahead and we built up this full-blown accounting package with CRM, with customer relationship management system, with Salesforce tracking, and it had no traction. We spent months and time and effort and money building out this thing that nobody wanted. So what we realized was that it wasn't really an idea, it was more of a guess. And what we had to do is that we had to now take a step back and learn from that. And when we went back to the drawing board, instead of building out the product, we created something known as an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. And what the minimum viable product does is it gives you the least amount of things that you can do to show to your customer, present to your customer, and start your company. So instead of building software, building an app, what we did is actually to create a flyer. And when we first showcased the flyer, people were very responsive, and we actually got, just from the flyer alone, over 200 persons signed up on our website just because of a flyer, and there was actually no product at the time. And so if you're thinking about building your product or your ideas, think about what's the least amount that you can do to get some traction, so your minimum viable product. Then how we knew we're onto something is that we had a booth and we're done by Jamaica Conference Center. A bunch of accountants came around and they were looking at talking, and then one of them said, "What is this?" And we explained the idea and concept, and they got very upset and very irate, and they're like, "You want to steal our jobs and take away our money. Nobody's going to want an accountant anymore." And I was like, so I have something here. So there is a need for it, and more we investigate, there's nothing like that in Jamaica. So having realized it was a guess, we now went on to validating the idea. So we started to actually show persons different screenshots, different implementations. So we actually build the code until we had a fulsome idea of what we wanted to give to customers. People are always positive. Yes, you have a great idea. We love it and all that. Ask for money. So when they're done saying it's great, ask them, all right, if you think your product is worth $50, say, hey, I'm giving $50 for the idea before it's done. And you will see them go, well, you know, I can't really. But if it is a great idea, they'll take out their wallet and they'll give it to you. I actually tried that with Javed to test the idea, but Javed didn't realize that. Javed didn't pay for a month, but he paid for an entire year because he loved the idea, and that to me validated my idea. So I knew I had a great product, and several other persons have done that. So that's one of the strategies. So people will always tell you the most positive things and say it's a great idea, but money always gets them to tell the truth. Track and measure everything. So we are, from day one, we started to track the surveys, track people we're talking to, background information about who they are, the nature of their business, and so on. When we started to put flyers out there, there's a strategy that you guys can use. Like, we have a separate domain name for our flyers. So, for example, for us, if I'm talking to people in the offline world, we say go to getheadoffice.com. If it's online and we're posting a link, then we go to the website headofficeapp.com. So therefore, I can now track. It's also important when you're doing social media postings to tag on the UTM stuff to say what is the source, what's the campaign, and so on, so that we can track and say what's doing best for you. So we target Facebook, we target Twitter, we target emails, offline. So you can actually see a breakdown overall for the period. We had 398 persons. 3 came from Twitter, 4 from Facebook, 6 from offline, 10 from a newsletter, and 365 we can't identify. So probably that's search or something like that, but we don't know where it actually came from. A projector, okay, no problem. So because of this now, we know that newsletter is the best source for us. So if you are actually tracking your costs to the newsletter, and this is say cost you $10 per customer to acquire, and they spend $50 with you, then you'd want to spend most of your time doing a newsletter. If it is that offline gives you more bang for your buck, you spend $5 and you get $50 in return, and you probably spend more time optimizing your offline, so in terms of doing flyers, doing roadshows, and so on. So whatever you do, make sure you're tracking and measuring it, because this actually gives you your customer acquisition cost. So you can know in terms of marketing now, where do you spend your money. And this is a great way to, in terms of calculating your ROI for marketing as well, the return on investment. And these are real numbers. Another trick that we're doing also is that if you're in a radio ad or a television ad, and you put a telephone number inside, you give a specific number for a radio ad or a specific number for a television, so that way when the phone rings, and if you're fortunate enough to have a PBX system, you can run a report to say how many calls came into this number versus this number, so you can see how well radio is doing, how well TV is doing. But this is an online marketing, so I guess you guys shouldn't necessarily need to do that. But it's a good way to keep track of traditional media. Gleaner as well, in terms of newspapers, that's a good way to do it. If you place an ad in Loop, you want to also make sure you tag it as a source for Loop, so that way you can track and see how well Loop is doing. Because even though Loop says it's bringing traffic, the traffic might not be actually converting to money. This is actually the entire process. So here, make sure that whatever problem you're solving, and I recommend you solve problems as opposed to, if you want to make money, as opposed to doing something social. But if you want to do something social for the benefit, then that's great. But solve a problem and need that somebody actually has. So problem solution fit, do your MVP, what your funnels in terms of how you're getting your customers in to see if it makes sense. See if there's a product market fit in terms of going out there, getting people to say if they like the product, or getting Java to sign up for a year subscription. Create a business model, which is pretty slide. Do the sales and marketing roadmap to see how you can project out. Like we know what we're going to be for next year in terms of social media. We'll have a timetable for when tweets must go, when posts must go. We've automated a lot of it. So for example, when somebody signs up for a product, and if they don't visit back for 30 days, we'll automatically send them an email to say, hey, what's going on? or if you have signed up and have created your first invoice, it says, hey, congratulations, you've created your first invoice. Here's some other things that you can do. So this is market automation. It's also referred to as drip email marketing for those who are so inclined. And if the idea isn't working out, you pivot, which is basically you look at your idea, make some changes to it, and you repeat the process. And after you've come up with a concept and everything is working fine, then you execute on that and then grow and scale your organization. So for those who are doing funding, this is probably the angel round. And then over here is probably like your Series A, Series B, and so on, for those who want to seek funding. So if you get to here, bootstrapping, that's good. That means you have more of the company, and then that you have validated idea, so you can ask for more from your Series A and keep more percentage for the company for yourself. So if you decide to seek funding. So the key takeaway, if you're going to start with the idea, is to test, measure, and learn. So everything you're doing, make sure you're testing. Measure it and learn. Find some metric. If you can't measure it, I suggest that you don't do it at all. So you must have some way to measure so you can see if it's going up or down. So test, measure, learn, and repeat, and keep on doing that. Even when the company grows to a large organization, you still want to be doing this process because you want to be able to innovate, iterate, and be able to dominate your market or the spaces that you're in.